my name's Aida Shanahan. I'm year 2 in the BSc and I'm currently studying my Masters in Obstetrics and Gynecology at UCC. My topic for discussion is termed the process of normal birth. I suppose first of all we should define what normal birth is, and that's quite difficult given that in days like today we see stories in the media of transgender men who give birth preoperatively, like this picture, and also in terms of new fads such as lotus births. However, the World Health Organization has made an attempt to define a normal birth. They term a normal birth as one which is spontaneous in onset, low risk both at the start of the labour and continuing on through the labour and delivery itself. The infant must be born spontaneously in the vertex position between 37 and 42 completed weeks of pregnancy. The infant and the mother should both be in good condition post-birth. In terms of what this means for obstetrics, it means that a lot of the tools that we are used to, such as a forceps, a key, fetal blood sampling, or indeed fetal scalp electrodes, have played less of a role. In terms of the process of normal birth, this starts with some signs. These include, but are not limited to, engagement when the head moves down to the pelvis, a show, some irregular pains, and a rupture of membranes. Labour itself is defined as regular uterine activity associated with effacement and dilation of the cervix and resulting in the descent of the presenting part through the cervix. Established labour is so called when the cervix dilates to more than 4 centimetres. The process of labour itself is divided into 3 stages. The first stage begins with the onset of regular uterine activity and ends with full dilation of the cervix, which is 10 centimetres. In terms of cervical effacement dilatation, it's something I've always found difficult to understand. I like to think of it in terms of a sleeve of a jumper. During pregnancy, the sleeve is rolled up really tight, like a donut, at the very end of your arm. When it begins to efface, it thins out like a sleeve unrolling and opens, allowing the head to pass through. The process of cervical dilatation itself is a result both of hormones and of mechanical forces of the head behind it. The hormone at play is a prostaglandin E2. Prostaglandin E2 results in an increase in hyaluronic acid and cervical decorin. Both of these lead to misalignment of the collagen fibres. In terms of prostaglandin E2, it also encourages chemotaxis, which encourages leukocytes and IL-8 to the site, and they degrade collagen. Thus, you have a much softened cervix. In terms of the image is now forced to dilate and efface because of the force of the head behind it. During this first stage of labour, the length, strength and duration of the contraction should be documented. Pain relief should be discussed, any PB loss should be documented, along with the presence of fetal movements. The fundal height, presentation, lie, position and engagement should be documented. A vaginal exam should be performed if there is a suspicion the woman is in established labour. NICE guidelines recommend documentation of the frequency of contractions every 30 minutes, an hourly pulse, 4-hourly blood pressure and temperature, a 4-hourly vaginal exam, and to comment on the frequency of micturition. It should be noted that anyone in established labour should also be started on a partogram, which is seen in this picture here. Once the cervix is dilated, the second stage begins. The second stage refers for the time period from full dilation of the cervix to the expulsion of the fetus. Labour itself depends on 3 P's: power, passage and passenger. Power is probably the easiest thing to understand, and it refers to both maternal effort and the force of the uterine contractions. Passage itself depends on several things: the shape of the maternal pelvis and the dimensions of the pelvic inlet and pelvic end. The pelvic inlet in obstetrics is bounded by the sacral promontory, the horizontal ramia of the pubic bones and the top of the pubic symphysis. Because the baby must pass through the inlet to enter the true pelvis and to be born vaginally, the anterior, posterior, transverse and oblique diameters are all very important. The narrowest bony points formed by the sacral promontory and the inner pubic arch is termed the obstetrial conjugate, or the AP diameter. It's about 11.5 centimetres. In terms of the oblique diameter, it goes from the sacroiliac joint to the opposing iliopectinal eminence, and that is about 12 centimetres. In terms of the transverse diameter, that goes between the widest point of the iliopectinal lines, and that measures about 13 centimetres. Therefore, you can see that in terms of the pelvic inlet, the widest diameter is in the transverse plane. The outlet then has the following boundaries. Anteriorly, the lower border of the symphysis pubis, posteriorly the coccyx, and laterally the ischial spines. In terms of diameters, the AP diameter extends from the tip of the sacrum to the lower border of the pubic symphysis, and that is about 13 centimetres. In terms of transverse diameters, the bituberous diameters between the inner aspects of the ischial tuberosities is about 11 centimetres, and the bispinous diameter between the tips of the ischial spines is about 10.5 centimetres. Thus, it can be seen that the widest diameter in terms of the pelvic outlet is in the AP diameter rather than the transverse plane. The next P in the process of normal birth refers to the passenger, or in other words, the fetus. The factors that influence the passage of the fetus itself are in terms of the fetal size, the fetal presentation, which in this case will always be vertex in a normal birth, fetal position, or in other words, the relation of the fetal presenting part to the dimensions of the mother's pelvis, and moulding. And moulding refers to when the bones in the child's skull overlap, which compresses the skull slightly and reduces diameters, making the passage a little bit easier. The reason why it can do so is because of the presence of an anterior fontanelle and a posterior fontanelle. Also, the bones of the skull are joined by ununited sutures, which means that they can overlap and move easily over and under each other. The mechanism of labour occurs within the cardinal movements. The cardinal movements first begin with engagement, when the head and the largest part of the head, which is the biparietal diameter, moves into the pelvis. This must occur in the transverse plane because, as we mentioned, the widest diameter of the pelvic inlet is in the transverse plane. Next, as the fetal vertex descends, it encounters resistance from the bony pelvis and from the soft tissues of the pelvic floor, resulting in passive flexion of the fetal occiput. Thus, the chin is brought into contact with the fetal thorax, resulting the diameter from the occipital frontal diameter, which is 11 centimetres, to the suboccipito-pragmatic diameter, which is only 9.5 centimetres. This helps to make the passage of the fetus a little bit easier. As the fetus goes into mid-pelvis, it must rotate to accommodate for the change in diameters because, as we said, the widest diameter in the pelvic outlet is in the AP plane rather than transverse. Thus, the fetal head must rotate in order to bring the sagittal suture into the AP diameter. Thus, the baby's head rotates, so the face of the baby is against the back of the labouring woman, and the back of the baby's head is against the front of the pelvis. Next, the baby's head must descend further. It extends and rotates around the inferior margin of the pubic symphysis. This is due to upward resistance from the pelvic floor and also downward forces from the uterine contractions. This results, as we said, in extension and rotation around the symphysis pubis, resulting in the baby crowning and delivery of the head. Once the fetus head is free from any resistance, it must rotate about 45 degrees left or right to return to its own anatomical position in relation to the body. This is termed restitution. After this, the rest of the fetal body must deliver. The shoulders must move into the transverse diameter in order to ensure easy exit. The anterior shoulder is delivered with downward traction, and the posterior shoulder is delivered with upward traction, followed by the rest of the fetus. The third stage of labour refers to the delivery of the placenta. The delivery of the placenta occurs because the uterus starts to contract. As it contracts, the blood flow to the placenta is diminished, and as in terms of the surface of the myometrium, contracts and gets smaller as well. This results in separation of the placenta. The reason why that we don't get a hemorrhage, or at least try not to get a hemorrhage after delivery of the placenta, is because the muscles of the uterus are arranged in figures of eights around the blood vessels. Thus, as they constrict, they ligate any blood vessels left behind and to prevent any postpartum hemorrhage. In terms of how you know the placenta is going to deliver, you see first of all a gush of blood, a lengthening of the cord, and you can feel the uterus contracting itself. Time frame wise, the placenta can deliver between 10 and 30 minutes. It can be managed both expectantly and actively. In terms of a summary, labour is divided into 3 stages. These include the first stage, which is from the onset of regular uterine activity to full dilation of the cervix. The second stage, which is from full dilatation of the cervix to the expulsion of the fetus. And the third stage, which refers to the time between expulsion of the fetus and delivery of the placenta. Labour itself is, I suppose, governed by 3 P's. In other words, power, passage, and passenger. Thank you.